All right, so the Hangout's live, guys, and we are just waiting for Doug to dial us into the radio show.
Cool.
There it is. There. Okay.
Heather, do
Hello.
you have Doug's not toll-free studio line number?
Hang on, I'm turning.
Yeah, turn it down. I do have. Yeah, but he'll call you next
There we
week.
go.
Yeah, but well, it didn't work last time, so I was just preparing.
Doug, I can hear. I think I'm on, Doug, with you.
Yeah, Jay's
Can you hear
on.
me?
Jay's on.
Then I'm on.
So it's just Rick. It's just Rick that we need.
Ow.
Okay. Yeah, Ricky's dialing you right now.
Okay. What number is he calling?
All right, and I turned down my volume on. Hangouts,
Yeah,
is that correct?
I can't hear you on the Hangout, Rick. He's calling. I don't know what number. Whatever number he has.
Hey, Doug, you call me on my cell phone again. What number are you calling?
I hear him in the back there.
Yeah.
It's weird. Okay, I need to call into you.
This is very exciting for the people on the Hangout to see the kind of
Well,
the exciting glamour behind.
That's why we call it behind the scenes.
Yeah.
This is how it actually goes.
I'm just calling it behind because there's not much of a scene. You see,
behind
little
Rick.
humor. Oh my God! So after the because we actually pre-record the happy hour now in the afternoon, and afterwards we all went over to Bama's house, to hang out by the pool. She's fostering 3 kittens.
Aww.
Oh my God! You have no idea how close one was coming home with me. But Selby would not stand for it. So. Woo!
Thanks.
All right.
So people on the Google Hangout, that's what we call in show business a close call.
Yeah.
We're trying to work out some of the technicalities, you see. So you can tell all your friends like a real behind-the-scenes showbiz story. Wonderful.
We're ready.
Woo! Look, everyone's got a cat.
Oh.
Rick has Mr. Bigglesworth there. Look at him. He's like.
Go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you, Doug.
Welcome to the show on Wednesday, May 28th. I'm Heather Vale Goss. Joining me today are my co-hosts, as always, Jay Amernick and Rick Raddatz. Jay Amernick's a radio talk show host and former TV writer, also a strategic planner who helps his clients create and implement plans, goals, tactics, and benchmarks. Rick Raddatz is a serial entrepreneur with a degree in philosophy, which led to his development that he calls the solution, and pentanomics, which is the philosophy behind the solution. I'm Heather Vale Goss, a freelance journalist, peeling away the layers of the onion, and that's why I'm known as the Unwrapper. Guys, welcome to the show.
Hey, how are you?
Heather, before we dive in, I want to know, why is Jay introduced as a radio show host, but you and I aren't?
Oh, because
I have nothing else in my life.
That's what. Yeah, he's like a. The way that you have multiple businesses, Rick. Jay has multiple radio shows. He's just like he's addicted to hosting radio shows.
And I do have multiple businesses as well, but
yeah, no, he's got multiple ones. I mean, I've done a lot of radio, but this is
I'm sending Heather a list of all my businesses.
All right, I'll set my goals higher then. Okay.
All right. So yeah.
Maybe we should do another radio show. Why people have so many radio shows?
That's a good idea. Yeah. I think it's an addiction, honestly. I think that there needs to be a radio show intervention or something going on. But actually, I saved Jay because Jay and I were going to have a radio show called Vegas Over 40, and I convinced him that it should be a video show. So it is no longer a radio show. It's going to be an online TV show. So
yes.
Otherwise, he just would have tipped the scale. That's way too many radio shows to host. Just saying.
And I don't have to wear headphones.
Yeah, you don't have to wear headphones for the video show. That's right.
Okay.
Yeah. So, how's your week going, guys? I think Rick. I don't know. Like the people on the radio won't know this, but the people that are watching on the Hangouts at politicalfixradio.com will know that Rick's looking a little underdressed today. He's got the baseball cap going on. Actually, he does look like he's from Colorado, but I mean, what's the deal?
Yeah, we didn't interrupt your golf game to have the show, did we?
No, it's a simple matter of laundry. My wife's been pretty busy recently, and I don't do laundry. So as the week progresses, you see more and more creative clothing outfits. And now we're down to a T-shirt I haven't worn in about a year, and a baseball cap. So.
Okay. Well.
I don't know that a T-shirt and a baseball cap qualifies as creative, by the way.
I don't know if actually the baseball cap makes sense with that description. I mean, there's no reason to add a baseball cap.
You add in a bad hair and you get the baseball cap. So it's that simple.
What hair, Rick? What hair?
Yeah, you need to have hair to have a bad hair.
I'm stepping in right here. Let's not get into
He shaves. His head's practically shaved. Anyway, okay, fine.
Is that better?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
So less casual without the baseball cap?
Yeah,
less casual, yeah. No, go for it. Whatever you like, it works. It's cool.
Political problems. How about that?
Yeah. So speaking of that, Rick, why don't you tell everyone what the philosophy is behind pentonomics and the solution?
Okay. Well, let's focus on the solution itself this time instead of the philosophy. The solution is called cap and prioritize. And what we're going to do is, it's a two-step process. We're going to cap the heck out of government so that the political right is happy. But we're also going to maintain the purchasing power of government. So we have this constant purchasing power, and we're going to prioritize it and reprioritize it more transparently. There's ways of doing that. And the transparency of a prioritized budget is going to force what's left of government to help the people who need help most. In fact, it's going to constantly discover better and better ways to use that constant purchasing power. In other words, we're going to have a government with cap and prioritize that constantly shrinks as a percentage of the economy, trending towards maximum freedom, but also constantly improves its ability to affect social justice. And that's what the political left wants. So this is the ultimate solution to our country's political problems, cap and prioritize. There you go. So now that we've solved all the world's problems, let's talk about skydiving. You guys went skydiving last week, I hear. Is that right? Well, it was indoor skydiving? That's not you just said skydiving before the show. That doesn't count.
No, she said it. She said indoor.
Rolling around on a cushion of air. That's a Sleep Number mattress on big. That's all that is.
No, it is. It was a lot of fun, and it's the same sensation as skydiving, just not, jumping out of a perfectly good airplane, as they say.
I don't think it's the same. Have you guys gone real skydiving?
No.
Okay, well, as a hang glider, I can tell you it is not the same experience.
Indoor hang gliding?
No, real hang gliding. I jumped off a cliff.
Right.
That was in my younger days, but yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So you don't do that anymore?
No. I did it enough to get licensed and to have some fun. But if I was to keep on doing it and keep on advancing and growing in that sport, then that's where it can get a little dangerous. The beginners don't often die. It's the advanced people who are trying more advanced things that push the limits and go too far. So.
Interesting. Okay.
So I did it for a little bit, and then said, okay, I've done that. I've had the experience. And what's really funny is I'm afraid of heights. Okay, I'm deathly afraid of heights, but when I'm strapped into my hang glider, I don't have that sensation. I feel like I have the control I need to handle it, and I love it. It was weird.
That's really interesting, actually, because I am afraid of heights as well, but I don't know, hang gliding actually seems like it would be fun, I have to admit. Not so much skydiving. I don't think that seems fun, but who knows? Who knows? Maybe someday I'll try it. Never say never, right?
Yeah.
So do you guys want to hear the top story?
The tandem first.
Yes.
Yeah, what's the top story?
All right, so the top story is, in a broad defense of his foreign policy, President Barack Obama declared today that the U.S. remains the world's most indispensable nation, even after a long season of war, as he says. But he also argued for restraint before embarking on more military adventures. Standing before the newest class of officers graduating from the U.S. Military Academy, Obama said, "I would betray my duty to you and to the country we love if I sent you into harm's way simply because I saw a problem somewhere in the world that needed fixing, or because I was worried about critics who think military intervention is the only way for America to avoid looking weak." Obama's speech signaled a concerted effort by the White House to push back against those critics who contend that the president's approach to global problems has been too cautious and has emboldened adversaries in Syria, Russia, and China. The criticism frustrates the president and his advisors, who say Obama's efforts to keep the U.S. out of more military conflicts are in line with the views of the American public. Even as the U.S. emerges from the two wars that followed the September 11, 2001 attacks, Obama said terrorism remains the most direct threat to American security. But he argued that as the threat has shifted from a centralized al-Qaeda to an array of affiliates, the American response must change too. Rather than launching large-scale military efforts, Obama called for partnering with countries where terrorist networks seek a foothold. That effort includes a new $5 billion fund to help countries fight terrorism and to expand funding for Defense Department intelligence, surveillance, reconnaissance, special operations, and other activities. Obama cast the bloody civil war in Syria as more of a counterterrorism challenge than a humanitarian crisis. He defended his decision to keep the U.S. military out of the conflict, but said he would seek to increase support for the Syrian opposition, as well as neighboring countries including Jordan, Lebanon, Turkey, and Iraq that have faced an influx of refugees and fear the spread of terrorism. The president's speech came one day after he outlined plans to wind down America's lengthy war in Afghanistan by the end of 2016. The blueprint for that calls for keeping almost 10,000 troops in Afghanistan for training and counterterrorism even after combat missions end later this year, but then withdraw them within 2 years. And that's our top story. Thoughts?
Yeah. Okay. So in general, overall, it's an okay strategy. I wouldn't have said it out loud like that. Because you look at, obviously that's no matter what you say, that's pretty much every president's goal is to not, engage us in a morass. But sometimes it happens. But saying out loud he doesn't want to do it. What made presidents like JFK and Ronald Reagan so strong was because they, JFK, famously said, "We will pay any price, go any length to defend our allies and to fight our enemies." That's strength. Now, whatever it ends up, meaning is different. Ronald Reagan, had a similar rhetoric, but to say this, out loud, he's right. Obviously, he would be doing a disservice to them to send them into harm's way on a whim. But they're not the only ones listening to that speech. and it's all the bad actors. And as far as what he said about Al-Qaeda, Al-Qaeda was pretty much always decentralized. Al-Qaeda is Arabic for the base, and it was always, that was one of the things that Osama bin Laden used to do. That's, he would put out the call, and just, you know, whatever lone wolf went a little nuts and did it, you know, he would say, look, that wasn't me. I mean, he was the first terrorist, you know, leader of a terrorist group to sort of to do that, and not to keep it all under his umbrella and take credit for it. You know, all, you know, Badr Manhof, the Turkish Grey Wolves, the Italian Red Brigades, all always took credit for their act.
Interesting.
The PLO, whomever, they're all, that's what they did.
Okay.
Yeah, in my opinion, I agree with Jay that it's wrong to do what he did in public. The whole point of diplomacy is to have both a public message and also a private message. And we in the public, you know, we're not going to see the private messages. We don't know what's really going on behind the scenes, and we shouldn't. There has to be that communication, and mature adults have to be in charge. Obama reminds me of an employee who, for the first time ever, gets promoted to manager. And as an employee, employees are like mad at management for doing this wrong, and making you work, and making you do this, making you check in and keep track of things. And so then when they get a first chance of being a manager, they like do the opposite of what smart managers do. And it's not until they learn the hard way, typically, if they learn at all, that it doesn't work that way. And so Obama is expressing publicly, as the commander-in-chief, the same complaints that the immature side of American politics often talks about. And to say that publicly is just promoting weakness, and indirectly, that's what causes problems around the world. Because when America is strong, when our diplomacy is backed by a strong national defense, and the feeling that we will use it if appropriate, then the bad actors get more quiet. Okay, they'll still do bad stuff, but they'll think twice. They'll do it smaller. They'll creep around, but they're not going to like invade Crimea. Okay, Putin invaded Crimea because he could. He made the estimate based on what happened in Syria, based on what happened in the Middle East, and so on. And Putin was right. Democracies don't want to go to war. There is a high bar for us to go to war, but we shouldn't be proud of that publicly. We should talk strong, be strong, and then in private encourage people to act better.
Okay, so you don't think that his advisors are right in saying that that view is in line with the views of the American public? Because if it is in line, then there shouldn't be a problem with saying it out loud.
No. Well, first of all, when it comes to security, quite frankly, the American public opinion, most people don't understand. Of course, everybody wants to, put all our weapons in a smelting pot and melt them down and hug each other and sing Kumbaya. That is not realpolitik. That's not what the world is. And the people who are into that can put flowers in their hair and dance around in a circle and bang drums all they like. That is public opinion, but it ain't right. It's not the world we live in. Just because we start doing that doesn't mean that Osama bin Laden, well, whomever's running Al-Qaeda at this point is going to start doing that. It doesn't mean that Bashir al-Assad is going to start doing that. There are bad people in this world. There is good and there is evil, and most people don't fully grasp that or don't fully want to believe that. They want to believe that we can somehow change them. There was I remember after 9/11 there were a bunch of hippy dippy psychologists and sociologists saying next time you're on a plane and you're sitting next to somebody who looks like they may be a terrorist, introduce themselves. You tell them your name. Maybe they won't set off their bomb if they know your name. And I'm like, you are a complete idiot who has no understanding of what terrorism is or what the terrorist mindset is. And literally this was someone being interviewed seriously on CNN, and it was just I was in shock that that's like the worst advice you can give. But
well, if it was a movie, that would probably play out where suddenly he had second thoughts because he knew this person sitting beside. But yeah, I mean that's fiction.
But that's not. But someone who's going to put a bomb doesn't have second thoughts. The suicide bomber is completely isolated for 2 or 3 weeks before they go out. They're indoctrinated.
He's brainwashed.
They're pumped up. I say indoctrinated.
It's
but
brainwashed.
Way, yeah.
Exactly what you're describing. That's the process of brainwashing.
Right, of course. And then they make a video saying goodbye to their family and the whole thing, and the martyrdom and all that.
And they're expecting
stuff.
all these virgins once they blow up.
Well, regardless of that, what they're promised in the hereafter. But the bottom line is that they're put in the situation. So me saying, hey, I'm Jay, ain't gonna change his mind at that point. Hey, I'm Jay. I have 5 kids. That none of that is going to matter to him. He doesn't care. So to suggest that it's literally it was just bad advice.
Yeah.
You know what?
So
if we are still the most indispensable nation, it's not because of Obama's policies. It's because of the momentum of the policies of past presidents. American diplomacy and defense have never been perfect. I mean, I'm not claiming that. We make mistakes, but there's enough of past action from America that was strong. World War I, World War II, even Vietnam was drawing a line in the sand and saying, communism can't spread. At least we'll fight against it. We'll lose 50,000 soldiers defending that. And the nations, think of which nations would have fallen to communism if we hadn't drawn the line in Vietnam. We eventually lost Vietnam, but other nations were very grateful for us holding the line for that time. So, and the idea that terrorism is our most direct threat, well, maybe direct threat, but not the biggest threat. Terrorism is an annoyance, ultimately. I mean, it's really annoying. We've got to do everything we can to fight against it and break up those cells, etc. But if you don't respect what Russia's doing and China's doing and North Korea and so on with the nuclear proliferation, and we got to get serious about this at some point.
Yeah. Okay. Well, let's continue this discussion after the break, and we'll also have Jay's inside perspective. We'll be right back on The Political Fix. Cool. Thanks.
Hey, Heather. After you do your top story, how about if you pick one of us to do the commentary first? Because I think Jay and I are trying to respect each other, not stepping on each other's toes, so we don't know who to go first.
Yeah, I'm just not sure who has the most to say. So.
Well, if one of us, if one of us, it's almost like pick, and if one of us dries up, then the other hopefully jumps in.
Yeah. Okay. Sure.
And if not,
Well, what we can either do
where
Heather picks, or Jay, you can just go first, or whatever.
Let's try to make it Jay go first most of the time, but I'll ask when I say thoughts, Jay. I'll throw it to Jay, and then if he doesn't have something to say for some reason, which I highly doubt, then.
Yeah. Oh.
No, go ahead.
No,
we're good. Welcome back to The Political Fix. I'm Heather Vale Goss here with my co-host Jay Amernick and the crazy philosopher Rick Raddatz. Not always so crazy. He's got some things to say. Anyway, before the break, we were discussing the top story today, which is Obama saying that he doesn't really want to fight. He wants to be nice, and these guys are both saying that that's a weak stance to take in public. So.
Well, I don't know that that's quite what he said. He actually said he's willing to fight. He would rather not fight, which is that's everybody's stance.
Yeah.
There's nobody who thinks that doing that first. Everybody admits, from who you would call the most hawkish, and I'm talking about people who are in a position of authority, not a Looney Tunes cat, on the fringe. But in general, the people who are elected, their feeling is that war or having to use force is a failure of diplomacy.
Well, okay.
Which it is.
Let me tell you how this is going to get solved. Okay.
Okay.
The way these kinds of multinational conflicts are going to get solved is that one nation. It could be it could be Greece, it could be any nation really. But some democracy, a rich or poor democracy, has to adopt cap and prioritize as their internal reform, so that they get both freedom and social justice working together within their nation. And once that succeeds and it gets copied by other democracies, that's what's going to inspire nations on the fringe, nations that could tilt towards the bad actors or the good actors, to tilt towards the good actors, because they're going to see that, this is how it all works together. And as the domino effect or the tidal wave, we've seen it with capitalism, we've seen it with democracy. When the economizing of our collective resources, cap and prioritize, spreads around the world in the same way, that's when these bad actors are going to get more and more isolated. It'll be harder and harder for them to act in the way that they do, and we'll have this final tipping point where finally the Earth can be largely at peace in a way that we've never really experienced it before. But it's got to be by one nation, could be us, could be somebody else, solving their internal problems and inspiring the world to copy them.
It almost sounds like you're talking about the 100th monkey, where the monkeys start washing their fruit on one island, and as soon as the 100th monkey starts doing it, then monkeys at a completely different island start doing it. It's like it's like metaphysically this is going to float through the air, and all the nations around the world will start doing it and singing Kumbaya.
No, it's not the. That's the stupidest thing I've ever heard.
You don't think there's 100 monkeys? You don't think the 100 monkey thinks it's true?
Well, you don't believe that, do you?
That the 100, they did a study. They said that they watched these monkeys. I mean.
Okay. Well, there is such a thing as like parallel evolution and convergent evolution, where just the natural forces of evolution tend towards the development of eyesight and flying and cognitive abilities and so on. But anyway, it's not like that. It's not like the 100 monkey scenario, because imagine if we here in the U.S. figured out how to cap and prioritize our government budget so that we could achieve both freedom and social justice at the same time. And it worked. Okay, so we have a more prosperous nation, a more fair nation, and people are happy on that issue. We start fighting about some other issue. Do you think other rich democracies are going to stand by and just clap for us and say, hey, we're so proud of you, America, for solving your own internal problems and succeeding, becoming even more dominant? No, they're going to copy us, like any nation copies a successful nation. And do you think poor democracies are going to stick around with their immature versions of social justice and socialist dictatorships? No, they're going to start copying this cap and prioritize idea. They might do it differently. They might do it better or worse, but democracy was copied for a reason, and capitalism was copied for a reason, because they work. This is the same thing, just to apply to a different type of resource. Instead of economizing our political resources or economizing our individual resources, we're economizing our public resources, our collective resources. So it's the same type of thing as capitalism and democracy. It's as big as that. It's just a matter of it happening one time and succeeding, and then other nations will copy it because it succeeds.
Okay, that's putting a lot of faith in other nations to understand that it succeeds, but okay, well, I mean, the proof will be in the pudding.
It has to succeed first. It has to succeed first.
Yeah, so we're talking like 100 years down the road.
No, talking potentially 2 decades. Look, Germany already has a pretty aggressive balanced budget amendment. Okay, I believe Switzerland did something similar. They have a cap on their spending. I think I call it a debt break. I forget. But so we already see a couple examples of modern nations being, consciously more restrictive in their spending, and that forces them now to do a better job prioritizing. As soon as they accidentally or on purpose discover the power of transparently prioritizing, actually prioritizing, not just arguing about priorities, that's where we'll start to see even bigger benefits, and this idea will spread. It's already happening. It's already happening. We just don't, we're not there yet. We haven't had the aha moment yet. We're just accidentally discovering it because some nations have learned that fiscal unsustainability is a bad thing. As soon as more nations learn that, we will accidentally discover cap and prioritize, even if this radio show doesn't go big and make it happen ourselves.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. You mentioned Greece before. They are, what we would call not in good shape because of that, because of irresponsibility and.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and they've decided, the people governing decided that the default is worse, so they're willing to renegotiate with the banks and accept austerity, as unpopular as it is, because total collapse is even worse. What cap and prioritize is austerity plus prioritize, meaning austerity plus social justice. So that's where cap and prioritize actually becomes an easier pill to swallow. So the next, easier than austerity alone. So the next nation that needs a bailout like Greece, it could be Spain, Italy, Portugal, even England is running off the deep end in terms of debt. When they need when another country needs a bailout, maybe cap and prioritize can be the thing that they have to do to get the refinancing instead of austerity alone, maybe cap alone.
Yeah. Okay. Well, let's take another break now, and then when we come back, we'll have Inside Perspective with Jay Amernick. We'll be right back on The Political Fix.
Cool.
Yeah, so we just flipped those segments.
No,
no big deal.
Not a big deal.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Hey, Doug, what is the local number to call in on the studio line so it doesn't cost you money? No, I want to point.
For him.
Well, I want to point my toll-free number to your studio line, or maybe all five. So, but I thought even on the round-robin ones, the hunted group, there was like one primary number, and it would fall to the next one if it was busy. So, no. Toll-free numbers have to be pointed to a local number for them to work. So what's the primary local number in your hunt group? Yeah. Okay. Are all the phone numbers in sequence, or are they like weird different numbers? Okay. Can you ask whoever would know in your organization what number your toll-free number points to, and then I'll point mine to the same number? Okay.
Cool.
Yeah, sounds good.
Okay. Sounds good.
I'm going to sneeze in 30 seconds.
Welcome back to The Political Fix. I'm Heather Vale Goss here with my co-hosts Jay Amernick and Rick Raddatz. Before the break, we were talking about the top story and the state of the movement, which Rick calls Pentanomics. And now, if you want to join in the discussion, the phone lines are open. You can call us at 888-627-6008. That's 888-627-6008. Or if you have a smartphone and you have the BBS radio app, you can connect to us directly that way as well. So, now we're going to go on to the Inside Perspective, which is Jay Amernick's segment. And Jay, tell us what's going on this week with the Inside Perspective.
Vote. Go vote.
Wow.
I'm not done. That's the beginning, my God.
Oh, okay.
Oh, for God's sakes. I can imagine you sitting down a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away. That's it?
Yeah, thank you for sharing. Vote, everybody.
Vote.
You got that? Vote.
Vote's incredibly important. Early voting, I believe, opened up on Saturday, and most people are going to ignore this. Most people ignore voting. Period. Most people are going to ignore the primary vote, and they shouldn't. There's a lot of local elections, and the people you are electing actually have more sway and influence over your life than when you vote on the big ticket. The president, your senators, all those things. These are very important elections, and not only that, they're the ones that you can have the most influence over. One, because there are obviously fewer people voting in them. Obviously fewer people are going to be voting for a judge in Nevada than are going to be voting for a president of the United States. And two, there are events all over town, all over your town, no matter where you're listening from, that where the candidates are there to do a meet and greet. And you can sit there, you can talk to them, you can say, where do you stand on this, where do you stand on that, and they'll tell you. They actually won't tell you, believe it or not, necessarily what you want to hear, but they'll tell you where they stand.
Okay.
So engage. That is the lowest threshold for you. What? I was going to say that's the lowest threshold for you to engage in the political process. Yes. Sure.
Of course.
Okay. My dissenting opinion is don't vote. Okay?
Because?
Don't vote. It doesn't make any difference. Okay? It doesn't make any difference.
Okay, but no, does it really not? Because here's when I was younger, when I was first allowed to vote, not in this country, in Canada, I would vote all the time when I was first allowed to. And then later, it got to the point where it's like, look, if I'm not fully behind one of the candidates, I'm not going to vote because it might end up tipping the scale, and I don't want to be responsible for that unless I'm like 100% all in. So, but I think a lot of people get like that, and it's complacency, and I don't think it solves anything. So if you just say don't vote, it's not going to make a difference. Well, and
especially on so many reasons. It doesn't make any difference for so many reasons. The first reason is that that's because of the numbers. The second, but here's the most important reason. This is especially for national politics, but I think it applies at the state level and maybe even local. The structure of our government is wrong. The structural incentives are wrong. It doesn't matter who you vote for, because no matter who wins, the system is structured for slow decline. Bigger, more bloated government waste, corruption, and the whole bit. What we need to do is cap and prioritize our government spending at all levels, so the transparency of a prioritized budget within those caps forces government to get better and better at spending, so that results matter, so that effectiveness matters, so that efficiency matters. Only then. Okay,
but that doesn't really apply when the vote. We're voting for judges and district attorneys. I mean, this is not.
Right. And let me take both those arguments. One, here's the numbers one. First of all, last election here in Nevada, there was a state assembly seat which was literally within like tens of votes. So people,
you don't know where the tipping point is.
One guy had
made a difference.
It doesn't matter.
And as far as yes, cap and prioritize, but in order to do that,
dominant.
you're going to have to get probably some new blood in there. My sense is that the guys who've been in there forever aren't going to change anything.
I honestly don't think that the judges are the people that are going to make a difference. This is not what they do. They're there deciding what the sentence is for criminals. They're there overseeing processes like adoptions and divorces. They're not. These are not the people that are going to make a difference as far as cap and prioritize.
But it's also very important for them to be people that you. Oh
yeah, I agree. Yeah. I agree. Yeah, I mean, I think anyone that gets to the level of being a judge obviously has credibility and experience. I've never met a judge that I thought, okay, that guy's got to go. But you know, my experience with judges is limited.
There was a judge here in Nevada. It might have been a little bit before your time. Who was there used to be a rule here in Nevada. You didn't have to be a lawyer in order to be a judge.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and there was one individual who was notoriously, what's the word? Screwy. She would fall asleep on the bench. She would.
Really?
It was just, oh yeah, it was bad.
Okay.
She I believe got tossed. I believe she passed away since she was
And she was actually elected to that position?
Yep.
I mean, that must have been not many people showed up for that election, I guess.
No, it's just but she was a very good campaigner. She got out there and she went to all the things, and and she was very recognizable, and it was a name you recognized. I don't want to say it on the air, but
Right. Okay.
So that was that was an oddball, but still there are that's the good news, that when there are problems with people like that, they can be voted out if people are actually paying attention.
So basically, so this election, it's sheriffs, it's judges, it's district attorneys.
Yes, and it's the gubernatorial primary as well, per party, and I think there are a couple state assembly seats. Those are the judges and DA and the others are nonpartisan.
Right. Okay.
But obviously that.
So it's like vote for whoever's going to be controlling the, crime and punishment in your area, as well as the lower levels.
Well, that's what's going on in Nevada. I don't know what's going on in other states.
Okay.
There could be very important ballot measures on there in other states. I have no idea, but it's well worth looking at.
Yeah.
And it doesn't take that much time.
Okay, and if you want to get out and actually talk to these people, I mean, here in Las Vegas, it's easy to find events where they are out hobnobbing and campaigning, but if someone lives in, somewhere in Michigan or what, how do they find these events?
You've got to get plugged in. I would just any of your local civic organizations or religious organizations. They all have things going on. There are events everywhere. We are getting into that season, and actually sort of oddly enough to kind of tie it back to the top story. In many ways, what President Obama was saying was almost an attempt to sort of tie to sort of marginalize the right by saying they're a bunch of warmongers. And it's not his way, and that's where we get into what I refer to as the silly season, because people buy into that crap.
Okay.
And so you have to.
Oh, you're back. I know that you had a lot to say because I saw your lips moving on the Hangout, but we did not hear you, so we just kind of.
Have at it.
Yeah. Yeah, no, we just kept going without you, Rick. Yeah, I knew that you wanted to argue more, and so this was great because it allowed Jay to actually get out some good points without you interrupting and arguing. But it's your turn now, Rick. Now that you're back, let's hear yours. Oh, we heard, yeah, you didn't cut off until after you finished that. Jay went back to talking, and then we didn't get all that stuff where you were trying to interrupt again. So go for it. I mean, I'm interested to hear, because Jay made some good points about how these people are... Actually, I said, too, these people are not the ones that are in charge of the cap and prioritize. These are, at least in Nevada, it's judges, it's district attorneys, it's sheriffs, and Jay said also the lower level gubernatorial. These are not the people.
but we'll also.
Okay. All right.
All right. So okay. So but we were talking maybe 20 years before cap and prioritize becomes a functioning possibility. In 20 years is enough time for the wrong people to get into office to really, really screw it up. And I would suggest that voting today for and getting to know your state assemblyman is tomorrow's representative in the U.S. House of Representatives from the state of Nevada, for instance, or possibly the next senator, or possibly, a cabinet member. Nevada is actually, I think, the only state that has only had one cabinet member come from our state. That's it. So, so I'd like to see that change. But so it's the people on the lower level today are the people that rise up the ranks. And Steve Horsford here in Nevada is a great example. He was a state assemblyman, I believe, and then he was a state senator, and now he is in the U.S. House of Representatives. And
yes.
I bet there were people who are trying to knock on his door now who wish they.
But the sheriffs are not going to rise up through the ranks.
No, but okay, no, but sometimes.
Okay. Well, we'll have your rant after the break. Jay, what were you saying? I said the sheriffs are not the ones. They're not going to rise up through the ranks.
Sometimes they do. Sometimes they have other aspirations. Sometimes they get involved with Department of Homeland Security or other organizations like that. So. Okay. Or become consultants for political organizations.
Yeah. Okay.
It doesn't always happen. They usually end up. You are correct. That's the norm. But again, someone who's involved in an election, the bottom line is you never know.
Right. Okay. Well, Rick, we're going to give you lots of time to rant and express your opinion when we come back from the break, because we've got to have Rick's rants when we come back, and we will be back in a couple of minutes on the Political Fix.
Oh. Whew.
Don't vote. I don't think that accomplishes. Okay, it does matter. Okay, like for example, and I think I told you guys this before, in Canada there's more than 2 parties. There are 3, I think now it's 4 major parties. But one year, so it was always, people would vote the far left party, which was called the New Democrat Party, NDP. They would vote that as a protest vote against the other 2 parties. One is a right-wing party and one is slightly left. So there's right-wing, slightly left, and far left. 1 year in Ontario, the far left party actually got elected, and everyone was blown away because people were only voting that party as a protest, and they won. Welcome back to the Political Fix. I'm Heather Vale Goss here with Jay Amernick and Rick Raddatz, my co-hosts, and it's getting heated today on Political Fix. There's a lot of heated discussion going on, a lot of arguments.
I would say spirited. I would not say heated.
Spirited, okay. It's getting spirited. And Rick had a lot to say that we did not we did not hear a lot of what Rick was saying because he somehow got dumped off the radio show. So I mean, that was fine. We took over without him. But now it's Rick's time. It's Rick's time to speak. This is the outside perspective. So Jay gives us the inside perspective. Rick is totally an outsider. He's going to give us the outside perspective, what we like to call Rick's rant. So Rick, go for it. Okay. Okay, so even though you just went on this big rant about how people should not vote because it makes no difference whatsoever, now you're making the plea, hey right-wingers, the left-wingers get to vote, and that's going to undo what you do, and hey left-wingers, the right-wingers get to vote, and that's going to undo what you do. So it does make a difference, obviously.
All right.
Okay.
Yeah, you're still
You know
there.
what? Yeah, Rick, you're still on the phone. I have a feeling you're not on the Hangout though, because the Hangout
He's on the
doesn't seem to.
Hangout.
Oh, visually, yes, but I don't think his audio's on the Hangout because I
Oh,
have
okay.
to keep manually switching it to him because somehow the Hangout's not picking up his audio. But that's beside the point
You got the
because
wrong headset on.
yeah, he needs a few more headsets. Yeah.
So I want to get back real quickly to. Oh my God.
No, you're not. No, but anyway.
But
Oh.
but it's a good look. I want to get back to what you said. You know, the social justice piece. You know, but prioritizing that. I think makes perfect sense because I think there are some things that the government is not only better at than the private sector, but it's necessary that as the government they engage in. Also, I believe that there are things that the private sector is better at than the public sector, and should be the one engaging it from a philanthropic point of view, and it's sort of trying to figure all that out, like what specifically, you know, social justice wise should the government be involved with, and should they be funding versus the private sector. Right. Well, those aren't the only like sort of social justice initiatives the government's involved in, and I think that there are ones where the private sector does it much better. One would be medical research. I think in general, I think the private sector does much better. Okay. Okay. Okay, so that's again where you have to be very careful when, because again this goes back to the prioritized concept. You know, the Obama administration famously granted all that money to Solyndra in the name of green energy. The company went bust. The reason why it went to Solyndra was because of political connections, and that is wrong. As opposed to letting it work in the free market. And again, and I'm not. I point out that because it's the most recent a recent example. There are other presidents, both Democrat and Republican, have engaged in that type of behavior. That crony capitalism. I just use that. I'm not singling out the president, just so people don't get hysterical.
Disclaimer. Yeah, well, that should be the question in life, with everything we do. Okay. So, guys, before we're done today, any final words for the viewers, for the listeners? Rick? Well, you've been talking a lot. Let's give Jay a shot.
Just to, thank everybody for listening. Visit thepoliticalfixradio.com and, contact us if you have comments, questions, and keep listening.
Yeah, we've actually got some really cool stuff on politicalfixradio.com. You can watch all of the old Hangouts. You can listen to the old radio shows. Everything's archived there. And we also have Rick talking about the movement, the solution, Pentanomics, at one of his TED Talks. That video's there, and you can find out more about it. And you can also find out more about us if you care. All right, well, What? Okay. Vote, don't vote. Vote, don't vote. Vote, don't vote. Yeah, okay. All right, well, so vote if you want to. Rick doesn't think it'll make a difference. Jay thinks it absolutely will make a difference. So get out there and do what you are called to do. I'm Heather Vale Goss, and on behalf of my co-hosts Jay Amernick and Rick Raddatz, thank you for listening this week. We'll be back next week on The Political Fix, and tune in at politicalfixradio.com.
There we go.
Cool. Thanks, Doug.
Thank you, Doug.
Thanks.
You too. We'll see you next week, Doug. Why don't you have Skype?
Okay. So from the phone to Skype, there's definitely a delay on the Hangout of a few seconds. But if you're not listening to the Hangout audio, if you're listening to the radio audio, there shouldn't be a delay between the phone and the Skype. All right, let's do some troubleshooting here. Let's sign off the Hangout first.
Oh, really? I signed off Skype already.
Yeah, I think so too.
I signed off Skype.
Also, the problem is with when I was connected with my phone on the first week, I can't do that and have the Hangout audio. So for me, it has to be Skype, or else we don't have the Hangout. We can't do the Hangout as well. Speaking of Hangout, I'm going to hang up the Hangout. Bye. Thank you for watching. We'll check you next week.